Are you trying to type yourself? Are you trying to determine if you're an INFJ? Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about what FE parent and TI child may look like from an INFJ perspective in terms of the cognitive functions, and contrasting that a bit to what the FITE process looks like in an ENFP. And this is going to be based again on a viewer's comments that were left on a previous video of mine where I was trying to decide whether I was an INFJ or an INFP. Well, I'm actually neither, at least based on the video typing that I did, which confirmed that I am an ENFP, but that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But we're going to dive into that in 1 second. My name is Kevin, and on this channel we talk a lot about Jungian personality psychology, particularly related to helping NF types really find their place in society. We talk a lot about highly sensitive people, or HSPs, particularly as well from a masculine or a male perspective, and we talk about some mental health stuff here as well. So if you guys enjoy those topics, please consider hitting the subscribe button and clicking the bell beside it to stay notified of future videos. And if you happen to enjoy this video, definitely hit the like button. That's a great action to take, of course. But anyway, so essentially, this is essentially like a sequel to a video I recently did before my previous video, where I talked about NISE versus NESI in terms of the cognitive functions and how that may differ. And this is all based off, so what happened was I have an old video where I talk about INFJ versus INFP and try to make the distinction between the two types. And I had a viewer of mine, Nina Magnotti, who commented on that video, and she essentially made the case that, you know what, I'm an INFJ. Now, that video was made a long time ago, and I ended up coming to a realization that I'm likely an ENFP based off a video typing session I did. But she actually challenged me on that, and she made some cases for why I'm an INFJ. And in that video that I just recorded recently, I went over her comments, particularly around the functions of NISE and NESI, and kind of broke that down, and I kind of gave my opinion, what I thought about her opinions, essentially. And we're going to be doing the exact same thing today, but for FI or FETI, and comparing that to FITE and what I think I'm using. But, maybe you guys can be the judge as well. But please comment down below, guys, and let me know, how did you guys type yourselves? Or maybe you're still trying to determine your type, but like, what process are you using to type yourself? And what types are you kind of stuck between at the moment, if you're still trying to figure it out? I'd definitely be curious to know, so leave that in the comments below. But this video is going to be covering in terms of when we're comparing the functions, we're going to be covering a number of areas, like talking about the meaning of life, harmony, search for the truth, your goals, and how this all ties into using FETI or FITE. So essentially, where are we? I have some notes here, by the way, so I'm going to be kind of referring to that as we go along. But essentially, the first comment that Nina left on that video related to these functions is that she claims that, I guess, what's meaningful to me is FE-centric based values based off what she saw in that video, not FI. And she was saying that I have them both essentially, and internally guided preferences are usually TI based for myself, but I'm clearly focused on bettering the tribe in FE ways. It's the conflict between TI and FE, wanting to build up personal technical understanding, while also desiring to help the tribe in the values, feelings realm to create harmony amongst people from their internal mechanics level. A lot there to digest, but I just want to take it one step at a time here. So she was saying that she saw me having FE-centric values. So there's a lot of confusion out there. The common perception is that, okay, if you're caring for people and you have a mission that involves helping people in some way, you must be using FE, right? Because FE is, you're extroverting, you're feeling. That's not necessarily true, because you can use FI to do that. It's just coming from a different angle, and you're kind of more going inward into your own kind of subjective experience in order to help the other person that you're helping, right? So there's different angles here, but I kind of question this in myself. I asked myself, do I really have FE-centric values? And I looked up, I made a note here, some of the things I tend to really strongly value, which is, let's say, autonomy, having freedom, having deep connection, having, I guess the ability to be independent. And some of this stuff is kind of new things that have been arising in me. But also life purpose, making an impact, these are things that are pretty important to me. And it might just be because I'm an intuitive or an NF, but a lot of this stuff seems like it doesn't necessarily align with the more common collective values of society, which may be, stability, hard work. That doesn't make sense. I would consider myself a hard worker, but I'm just kind of comparing this stuff to what I guess society typically values on a more collective level. Maybe consumerism, materialism, maybe. I don't. It's kind of a tough question because I'm sure there's I could go on and on about my own values and society. I'm sure there's tons of things that society values that I'm not seeing, but it really comes down to determining whether I'm valuing the same thing that the collective is valuing, or I'm kind of valuing from a personal standpoint. I'm choosing on my own what I'm going to value. And there can be an intersection there. I could use FI to choose what I value, but those may happen to be the same traits that society values. So it's very confusing, and I'm still trying to figure this out for myself. But essentially, one more point I want to make here is that I do still feel the pressure a lot about how much, if I have something, let's say, that conflicts with the majority of what society would pressure me to do, I feel that pressure. I feel it a lot, to the point where it's just very unnerving, creates a lot of anxiety. I'm always worrying about this, makes me feel uncomfortable. So that's something to keep in mind. Is that FE showing itself in me? Because if I'm an FEI user, based off what I've seen, they would be less concerned about, adhering to the societal type of pressure. But if I feel that pressure, does that mean I'm automatically an FE user? I don't know. Maybe Nina may be claiming that to some extent here, but I'm not sure. But let's move on. So, another point I want to make on that is that, I advocate a lot on this channel for, HSP men, let's say, to be able to show emotion and be themselves. This isn't necessarily collective value. This is something that may go against the grain about the way society's been built, at least in the last century, right? And it's really, I think, about differentiating, if we're gonna go base this on temperament, right? Temperament, the temperament of the NF types is that they're idealists. They're very affiliative. They're very much always thinking about what they should do. Adhering to social norms. Doing the proper thing, doing the right thing, right? So FE users can still, or should I say, FI users can still have that mindset where they don't want to rustle feathers. They want to still be a bit conflict avoidant. They want to tread carefully when it comes to breaking social norms. So even though I may feel a strong sense of independence in my FI, it doesn't mean I'm not going to feel a little bit cautious and kind of scary that I'm treading into these new waters and I'm potentially ruffling feathers. It's an unnerving process, right? And even with content I make, let's say about men showing emotions and stuff like that, this is it's types of topics that are maybe a bit impactful in both positive and negative ways, right? Like I may rustle some feathers around people who, let's say, are really about traditional masculinity and don't want any kind of change to the way we view men in society. So that's definitely something to consider there, I think. So it could really be, the whole, based off, like, just thinking about what she said and now what I just said here. It's still tough to come to a conclusion whether I'm using FE or FI in those cases, but there's definitely some indicators between the two. So if you're picking up on something in me right now as to whether I'm using FE or FI, leave a comment down below. I'd definitely appreciate that. And the next point here is I've recently had a bit of a challenge differentiating between TI and FI. And the thing is, it's like I have this thing I experience, right? And maybe you guys let me know if you guys are have experienced this as well. But maybe around people you're close to, people you really value a lot, like your close friends or your family. They may express an opinion, and all of a sudden you get triggered. You're like, no, I have this opinion that opposes their opinion, and you feel like you have to impose it on them. Like you get kind of triggered and offended by that. And it seems like a bit unhealthy, but this is just something I experience. And I was kind of wondering at this point, like, is this FI parent or is this TI child? Because I know TI child, right, in an INFJ can actually be a bit bratty. It can be a bit irrational. It can behave in that kind of way where it's a little bit immature and it can come across as really bratty. So let's say I had something I think that a logical deduction that I've come to that maybe wouldn't be in the collective set of thought, right? That, let's say, a TE user would think, or let's say my parents think. I may feel like I need to impose that on them in an immature, childish type of way, right? But you could also say that it's FI parent potentially because, the attitude of the parent function or the second function in your stack is that you kind of want to parent people. You want to kind of teach them. You want to kind of impose what you think upon them, right? And so I may have these values that they've breached by all of a sudden expressing an opinion that disagrees with mine, and now I feel this compulsion to parent them. So that's a little bit, it really could be one of the two, and I'm trying to still deduce which one it is. But this is just something that came up when I was thinking about, again, trying to differentiate FE and FI here. And, obviously FI parent as well, something to keep in mind is that, ENFPs also have FE critic. So FI parent works in tandem with FE critic. And, when you're trying to parent someone with your FI and impose kind of your values on them, you also have FE critic, which is in your shadow, and that can kind of criticize other people's values and the collective values of society, and that seems more in line with what I'm doing. So if I'm going to throw some money on this, I still think I'm using FI parent here. Something popped up on my phone. Give me a second. But yeah, that would be what I'm saying, but it's still possible that TI child is what I'm using in that case. Now, another point to make about FE in terms of harmony, right? Creating harmony is something that was also mentioned in that paragraph that Nina commented on my video. So something I have a tendency to do is censor myself in conversations with my friends. Sometimes I do this because I'm conflict avoidant and I don't want to say something that's too I don't want to say triggering, but very it could ruffle feathers again. It could create something that's a little bit controversial, or may cause a lot of reactions, and I kind of it's a lot for me to take in, right, to kind of create a reaction. So is this FE? Is this me just trying to create harmony with my FE and kind of create that connection in terms of kind of keeping the peace and not ruffling feathers? Or again, is that just me being affiliative and just having that temperament where whether I'm using FE or FI, I'm just not wanting to ruffle feathers, I'm trying to keep the peace? That's another question. Let me just take a drink here. But the last point I want to make on that comment that we went over is that, again, as I mentioned, FE can seem like FI and vice versa. And yeah, we touched on that both can create that same harmonious affiliative type result. But the question is, again, what cognition is creating that, right? And, it's tough because it's hard for me to answer right now. I'm not sure. But I've kind of floated around some ideas here. Maybe you guys resonated with something I just said, and you guys were able to identify that as FI parent or TI child or FE parent. And so let me know down below if you guys were able to come to any sort of insights on your own related to that stuff. So the next point we're going to cover here is she had mentioned that my channel is it's motivated by an FE purpose, right? And we kind of talked about that just now, but she also mentioned, ENFPs aren't driven by search for a single well-developed outcome. They're motivated by newness, randomness, and the creative pursuit, not on taking that in to build a technical TI holistic understanding. So, I think if we're going to talk about this again, the whole FE purpose thing, right? So, well, I think helping NF types, particularly HSP men, which is kind of what I've been doing on my channel, is not necessarily an FE purpose, I don't think. Again, we talked about how FI and FE can, present in similar ways in terms of the end outcome or the behavior that happens, but the cognition could be different, right? I was thinking that the reason I do this could stem from just a personal value, which is, me or men being able to express emotion. Maybe that's something I just really strongly value and believe in, and that's why I create these videos, as opposed to, being fixated on benefiting specific people watch my channel. I'm more focused maybe on broadcasting an important message. And I will say that I do feel I'm more in line still with FI there, because my mind isn't always on, as I'm recording this video, I'm kind of focused on, I have all these notes I made, and I just want to share it, man. I just want to broadcast that. I want to have an impact. I want to kind of get it out there because it's kind of important to me. And I really kind of value these experiences I've had. But I'm not necessarily focused on the one-to-one, okay, here, let me see what's going on with you. Let me take care of you. Let me help you, and let's see what you're having issues with. My mind isn't always on that specific place, but it doesn't mean that I'm not helping people, right? It's just coming from a different lens, coming from a different angle. So I actually disagree. I think that I am using FI with what I'm doing on this channel to this extent. And she made another comment about ENFPs, not wanting to search for a single well-developed outcome. And I agree. I actually don't think that's what I'm doing necessarily. I mentioned in other videos, using the Linda Barrett's interaction styles to type yourself. I'm a movement type, so I'm focused on the process of everything. I'm very process oriented. I'm focused on always moving towards my and getting goals accomplished, but I'm not necessarily focused on one singular outcome, or I'm not thinking always about the end result. I don't know what the end result will be of this YouTube channel, if I'm going to be honest, right? I'm just kind of taking this a day at a time, week at a time. I think it's a good idea to make these videos, so I'm doing them. And, we'll see where they lead. I don't know, but I'm kind of just chipping away, and I don't have necessarily one single well-developed outcome. I've had moments where I've kind of been like, oh, well, the outcome of this channel will be to, revolutionize high sensitivity in men. But then I have other moments where I'm like, you know what? It's not just about that. It's also about, really just helping all NF types in the Myers-Briggs spectrum really find their place in society. So it's really shifting constantly, and maybe that's my NE, constantly kind of seeing different possibilities of places I could take my channel. But there really are multiple potential avenues, and that's the way I see it. And and the whole part of building a technical TI holistic understanding, um, there are some moments where I've kind of wondered whether TI is something I use. There's other moments where I'm like, man, I don't know what TI is, man. Like, what is TI? Honestly, it's maybe the one function I maybe have the least amount of knowledge about. If I'm gonna be honest, like I just don't know what using logic is like. Like, I can read books and I could um I can learn new things. I can learn how to make better YouTube videos. I can learn how to code. I can learn how to, I don't know, do marketing. But, what is logic? What does that feel like? Um, but I will say, there's been some examples that people have given of TI, like let's say needing to understand something for yourself before you do it. And that's something I definitely align with. That's maybe one area I may annoy coworkers that I work with, where I'm kind of like always asking questions and needing to like really understand why I'm doing something before I do it. Is that TI? Let me know down below, guys. Um, but that's something I've definitely kind of conflicted with. But that's just one example, right? I can think of probably more evidence for TE, and TE is kind of more related to outsourcing a lot of my thinking, and effectiveness and efficiency are two key traits of TE that are very present in myself and in how I kind of accomplish things. Given the books, the self-help books I read, and just everything. This morning I just watched a video on like how to I guess grow your YouTube channel in 2021. That's very TE, man. Like I'm kind of outsourcing my thinking to the people whose video I watched, and now I have information that I plan to use to make my channel more effective. So, I still think I'm using more TE, but if you guys see any evidence of TI, let me know. And I'm sure if you guys have, in your process of trying to type yourself, if you guys have been able to, come up with any tangible examples of using TI that have led you to believe you're a TI user, let me know down below as well. So the next thing here is, FE's desire to establish social harmony. So, well, she was saying that, FE, has a desire to establish social harmony, obviously, and more often putting your goals aside to fit the perception of fulfilling the needs of others. So the whole point here is like, do I put my goals aside in order to help others' needs, right? But if I'm really looking at like where my mind space kind of lives on a day-to-day, it is very fixated on my life, my goals. What am I up to? What am I, where am I in life? It's all kind of about my life, and could that be NI possibly? But it's kind of my mind isn't always on like, what can I do today to help people? What can I do today to better, the world? Like I'm not always coming at every day from that FE type of frame of mind. You know, but it's also true that while I'll ignore more SE types of needs and ways I can help people, like doing chores, I will dive right in to help them with their feelings if it's noticeable in front of me that they're feeling down, and they start talking about something that's going on and bothering them. I actually really get a lot of enjoyment out of sitting there with them and trying to help them through that. But, that doesn't necessarily have to be FE. Of course, you can come at that from an FI frame of mind, where you can kind of use the things you value and your experiences and kind of your frame of lens to help them and accomplish or just make them feel better. So there's just an example recently where I did this, and that was when I need to help my mom a bit with something related to boundary setting. So I gave my feedback on that to her, and I was able to, help her out with that. But that was also kind of related to something I really value, and I've kind of become more and more of a strong believer in having firm boundaries and, having work-life balance, and having, being able to, essentially set boundaries with people and make your life work for you. And that's just something that I've really valued. And it's not necessarily a collective societal value. but I was able to impart that over to my mom when she needed help. So that is something that is probably FI, but that could be what you guys can judge upon. I'm not sure. Let me know down below. Now the next thing here, we're kind of nearing the end. This is one last point here, but she was saying that as a higher TI user, like an NITI, you will want to naturally prioritize TI motivation over your FE search for social harmony. Our identity is housed in TI search for truth. So what she was actually saying is that, so as an INFJ, you have your four functions are NI, FE, TI, and SE, right? But she was making the argument that I'm an NITI INFJ. So the reason I'm not so in touch with my FE is because I'm kind of in this NITI loop, and I'm kind of accessing my TI for my source of identity. So what I perceive as my FI being an ENFP, that she's saying that's actually TI, and I kind of I'm so fixated on my TI and searching for my own motivation and kind of my own sense of identity in what I know and like what my own knowledge, that's actually TI. So well, I actually think that's a fair point, since a lot is kind of hinging on me confirming my MBTI type. I'm so fixated on that right now. I'm really trying to come to certainty. I plan to get a second opinion from someone else because I want to be able to move forward confidently and give specific feedback on my given type. But another thing is I have a lot of issues with uncertainty, and I have a tendency to be obsessive. I mentioned in a previous video that I was diagnosed with OCD as a kid. Could that be TI, where I'm like always trying to find certainty? I didn't necessarily look into that before, whether TI is connected with a need to find certainty, but I could also make it seems believable inside my head that an NITI loop could be the process of trying to find certainty. So that possibility still exists. Is it true? Who knows? But that's just something I'm also grappling with, and it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting to consider that I may be in an NITI loop. So that's pretty much it for this video. I gave a lot of potential examples here, at least that Nina relayed to me that I wasn't necessarily thinking about before. And I kind of shared some examples from my own life in terms of like how I believe I'm using these FITE or FETI functions. And I would definitely appreciate it if you guys left a comment down below and let me know, which axis do you think I'm using, FITE or FETI? But also I want this to be something where you can share your own feedback here in the comments and let me know, how you typed yourself or how you're trying to type yourself. What types were you kind of stuck between, or what types are you stuck between right now? And provide some examples if you guys have come to any realization in the past of some good, what are some good examples of TI, FI, FE, TI, yeah, did I cover them all? TI, TE, FI, and FE that you've found in based on like certain positions, like as a parent function or a child function. If you want to share those down below, I would definitely really appreciate it, and I'd find it very useful personally. But also let me know, are there any other topics you want me to cover in future videos? And that's essentially it, I think. So 30-minute video, there was a lot to digest, but I hope you guys found it valuable. And again, if you want to stay tuned for more videos like this one, please consider hitting the subscribe button and clicking that bell beside it to stay notified. And of course, like the video if you liked the video. So without further ado, guys, that is it, and I'll see you in the next one.